Welcome to Biohacking with Brittany. I am so happy that you are joining me. This is the last episode of this year that I am doing, which is just wild to say. So I am wrapping up 2022, as are you. And it's been a bit of a wild month. I did a massive holiday campaign this year, and I did 12 days of biohacking gifts, and it's now closed. So if you saw any of that content, thank you for participating. And if you entered any of the giveaways, thank you for doing that. Congratulations to all of the winners who I have now notified. It was a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoyed the content that came out of that. So I did 12 different podcast episodes, and each one was released December 1st to December 12th. There's a lot of other content as well, YouTube interviews, all sorts of things like that. So I really hope you enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. And I really wanted to showcase my favorite health and wellness and biohacking brands and products that I'm working with right now. And a lot of this stuff is actually things that I use in my everyday life. It's definitely things that I turn to when I have certain symptoms or something's kind of flaring up for me, or even just things that I use in my day-to-day. So whether it's a supplement or a topical cream or product or anything like that. So definitely check those episodes out if you haven't listened already. They're there for you. I am really excited to be taking some more time off. I just got back. I was away last week in Tofino, which is a little beach town, I guess you could say, here on the west coast of Canada. And it was a beautiful, beautiful time off with my family. I did a lot of saunas. I did a lot of, a bit of cold therapy. I wouldn't say a lot of cold therapy. I would say a lot of beaches, a lot of walks, a lot of nature, less time online, less time on my computer. And it really did make me feel grounded again and made me feel just kind of centered. And this week has been a bit rough, being back at work and trying to get things going for the new year. But I'm excited to take time off again this weekend and take time off for the holidays. And I really encourage everyone listening to prioritize that. I think it's really easy to get caught up in hustle and working and, pushing all of the time. And as much as I am a hustler or I am a biohacker, I do think it is really important to kind of swing the other way and take a lot of time for yourself that's restorative and calming and just like lets you be stronger when you come out the other side. And it's really difficult to remember to do that. So I encourage you to take the time, all the time that you need, hopefully this holiday season, with your friends, with your family. And I know it's hard when you can be around people who might not have the same values as you. I deal with that a lot. I deal with that every holiday season. And I know so many people do. So many people do, whether it's even like political beliefs or things surrounding health is definitely a big one for me and a lot of people as well. And it's interesting when you see family or you travel home, sometimes, you're kind of going back to those places where maybe you used to live. And like at the point that you were living there, you were at a different life stage and you were younger and you're not the same person as you are now. So when you go back, it's almost like triggering for a lot of people. And I definitely understand that. So you are not alone. I get it. I am here for you. And as you get older and become more solid in yourself and believing in yourself and like standing up for yourself, I think these types of situations become easier to navigate. Whereas when you're younger, you feel kind of like you like mold back into a person that you used to be. So even with health, even with like food choices or alcohol or things that you talk about, or maybe there's things that you agree with or disagree with, like it's kind of easy to just sweep it under the rug. But then at one point you get to a point where you can really stick up for yourself. And I just love seeing that. I love when that happens. And I encourage you to do that as well. So this episode is not about the holiday season. We dive into biohacking and well-being and women's health. It is definitely one of those episodes where it was actually very just easy and seamless. And we talked a lot about different biohacking and unique biohacking techniques. So Dr. Monisha Bhanote is on the podcast today. She's known as the Wellbeing Doctor, and she's incredible. She's had a ton of different experiences and she has a very, very vast education. So it was really, really cool to like dive deep with her and talk about like ancient wisdom and mind body science and different things like that. So I really appreciated her coming on. So enjoy this episode. Should be pretty easy listening. I hope you learn something new as always. And a shout out to the sponsors of this week. First and foremost, Sensate. I love using my Sensate. I actually took it on holiday with me this year, last week when I was in Tofino. So I had a little bit of a Sensate session where I was in the lobby of the hotel and I kind of just like put it on my chest and let it vibrate. And it really helps you get out of this like fight or flight mode, which a lot of us can kind of be in around this time of year, and get us into a calmer state, a more Zen state type of idea. So it's like a device, it goes on your chest and it vibrates on your vagus nerve, and it really does help you. It really, really does help reduce your stress. So one of my favorite tools, super easy to take with you anywhere. You kind of buy it and you have it for life type of idea. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you don't have one already, or if you've never even heard of Sensate. Go for it. It will be linked in my show notes. And also it's on my website. All of the things I recommend are on my website. So that's biohackingbrittany.com. Also shout out to Bioptimizers. They create some of the best supplements on the market. I personally love their magnesium and their digestive enzymes. Now, again, when I was on holiday, these are the two that I bring with me. So I bring the magnesium because it has 7 different types of magnesium in it. So it's full spectrum. And when I'm feeling stressed or I drink alcohol, I will always take magnesium because alcohol depletes magnesium in the body. Same with like processed foods as well, actually. And when I go on holiday or even Christmas holidays, I tend to not eat clean as I normally do. So I definitely am aware of my mineral levels during this time. So I will take magnesium. And then I also mentioned their digestive enzymes. So their digestive enzymes are the only enzymes that I use, period. They're the only ones that I recommend as well. They are the best. I take them when I have dairy, processed food, alcohol, anything with gluten in it, just things that like are harder for my body to digest. I usually take 3 caps with that meal. And again, like I said, with the holidays, I'm kind of a little more loose on what I eat. And I try to really make sure that if I do have things with like lactose or dairy or gluten in them, I am taking these digestive enzymes to reduce the burden on my digestive tract, right? So for those who don't know, digestive enzymes basically are cofactors. And when you take them with the food, it helps start to break down the food right in your digestive enzymes or your digestive system. So you're basically just giving your body a bunch more of the good guys that they really need to like break down the food and absorb it. And you're just making it easier on yourself. And so that's why it's especially important to take it when you're digesting things that are typically harder on the body. So that's Bioptimizer's digestive enzymes. I also like it. It comes in a really large bottle. So it's not like you're getting just a few or enough for a month. Like one bottle usually lasts me 2 or 3 months. And so that's why I always recommend them as well. And last but not least, Silver Biotics. Let me tell you the amount of silver cream I used on this trip as well. And that is because I was in and out of the sauna and the hot tub a lot. And these are places that really, really thrive for bacteria and viruses and bad microbes and parasites and all sorts of things like that. So when I go in and when I come out of these types of, really damp, hot areas, I use the Silver Biotics gel or cream on my skin, especially on my legs, to reduce the chance of breakout, of rashes, of skin irritation in general. And it really does help. So it's basically colloidal silver that's in it, but it's more of a nanoparticle, so it doesn't accumulate in the body. And this silver like breaks and kills any of the bad guys on contact, essentially. So I love using Silver Biotics. I will always use them. I also take their supplement. And again, all three of these companies are linked in my show notes. They are on my website, and you can use my discount code Biohacking Brittany for all three of them so that you can get a discount and try it, right? That's the whole point, is that you're able to try different health and wellness products. I don't want you paying full price. I don't really get a kickback for a lot of these. It's just more of me wanting you to be able to try things. So I really, really encourage people to do that. So check that out and enjoy this episode. There's a lot of good information in here, and I'm super excited to be back next year, 2023. It's going to be a big year. I definitely have some personal things coming up. Like I am getting married in March, which is going to be wild, in Costa Rica. So I'm taking quite a bit of time off in March. And yeah, I'm curious to see how my brand and my business grows as I move into new spaces. And I have kind of like new things that I really am looking to explore. So stay tuned for all of that. It is coming. Don't you worry. I'm excited for you to participate and see that. And if you don't already, please follow me on Instagram at Biohacking Brittany. I'm on TikTok at Biohacking. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Twitter. I don't really use Twitter, but I'm on there. I think I'm everywhere. Pretty sure I am everywhere. So yeah, follow me, subscribe, and stay tuned for more biohacking content that will be coming your way. I will be active on socials over the holidays. So if you have any questions, just shoot me a message and I will send you a voice note. Maybe I'll send you a video. Who knows? Who knows? So stay tuned. Enjoy this episode, and I will catch you next year. Welcome to another episode of Biohacking with Brittany. I am delighted that you are joining me for another week. This week, we have a really cool doctor coming on the show. She's known as the Wellbeing Doctor, which is such an awesome title to have and be given. So Dr. Monisha Bhanote, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Brittany, for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, me as well. So I know you have so much education, and you have both like Western and Eastern experience in education. But I'm really curious, like how all of this got started in the first place. Like what made you, I guess first, what made you go into medicine, and then like why the pivot to create more of a holistic practice?
Absolutely. Well, so I've been in medicine a long time. I'm a first generation immigrant to the US. So when I arrived here and I grew up and did all my schooling in the States, I really had the option of be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. And I was pre-med and pre-law because I didn't really know which I wanted to do. And I opted for the medical path and started my journey on that and went down the traditional Western route and spent quite a bit of time there doing my medical school training, my residency, my fellowships. And from that training, I learned that there was a lot more we can do for our health rather than waiting for us to get sick. And that really came from years and years of looking at the human body on a cellular level.
And so did you have your own personal health struggles where you, like, I kind of saw some of this on your website, but you were talking about just like the conventional healthcare system failing you and failing your patients?
So my health struggles really didn't come until maybe in the last few years, and that was by a unfortunate accident. So that was not what made me pivot to this health career, but it is actually what has validated it even more because I suffered a concussion. And if anybody knows anything about concussions, it is more than just you get a hit on your head, because it releases this neuroinflammatory cascade, this pathway that just opens up to some things that other people might be aware of that they're experiencing, like gut health issues, like leaky gut. I don't think people usually connect concussions with leaky gut, but when you have inflammatory cytokines being released, there's a lot going on in that chemical pathway. And that's where going to conventional care and what my neurologist could offer me versus what I knew that I could offer my body from natural remedies and really taking a full holistic lifestyle approach had to meet in the middle.
And so how did you really heal from that? What was like your specific things that you did to kind of get your body back to normal?
Yeah, it's an everyday healing process. I think anybody that goes through a healing journey knows that there is ups and downs. There's good days and bad days. I already had quite a clean diet. So there wasn't much to do there from that aspect. I did only really remove gluten was the only thing that I removed. I was already plant-based. I did remove gluten, but I think a big part of it was what I was doing in my 24 hours of my day every day, which is being consistent about moving my body. So in the past, when somebody has a brain injury, they recommend rest. And from day one, I was making sure I was getting blood flow to my brain. So moving my body consistently, definitely using my fair share of botanical herbs for brain health. There was a handful of those that conventional care did not provide me, but I'm trained in those. So I felt very comfortable getting on those right away. I was also doing, physical treatments like massage, craniosacral, infrared saunas. So the additional therapies that you can kind of do to really look at everything.
I love that. I'm super, super interested in herbs and plant medicine and botanicals. Where did you study that? Like, where did you go to learn more about that?
Yeah, so I'm also trained at the Andrew Weil Center for Integrative Medicine. I have a fellowship in that and board certified in integrative medicine. So it's a big umbrella that combines integrative approaches to all of the health conditions, whether it's cardiovascular health or women's health or neurologic health. And then it also looks at taking a Ayurvedic approach and a traditional Chinese medicine approach, and then botanicals and what we know from the science can be helpful and how we can combine that with both Western and Eastern approach. So it's not one is right and one is the other. It's understanding how our individual biology works and what's going to work for us.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think that one healing modality is better than the others. I think different things can be used at different times in your healing journey and have different impacts. And that's why it's awesome to see people like you develop such a robust, practice, and you have a book and these other things as well, is because sometimes we don't know which modality or which step we should actually take, right? We're kind of like overloaded with information online now in the wellness space. So it's kind of confusing. Say you do have a concussion and you're like, okay, like, where do I even begin? But then you get people like you who are very well versed in all different modalities who can really walk people through a healing journey that's going to actually get them from A to B.
Absolutely. And that's really where this personalized approach is so important. I know I have patients that come to me with the same maybe symptoms and similar lab tests, but they don't all respond the same. And that's where we are looking at their lifestyle. Like, how do they deal with stress? How are they going to be able to implement eating clean nutrition? Do they even have the time to do certain things? So building that personalized approach is really helpful. And then taking it another level with in-depth laboratory testing, where we're looking at how is your body, like I said, functioning on the cellular level. The human cell is what makes you up. And you can either support it or nourish it. And then, another step even further than that is looking at your DNA. And just because you have this DNA, are you taking care of the good genes and keeping the bad genes turned off? And once again, that comes back to the human cell. And I'm also trained as a anatomic clinical and cytopathologist, which means that I am looking at your body tissues and your body fluids. And one of the first things that we note when a cell is going from being normal to dysplastic or precancerous to cancer is how the morphology changes in that cell.
Yeah, I definitely do want to dive into cellular health because I don't think a lot of people necessarily understand what that even means. I think a lot of the time we can kind of just get really caught up in the symptoms that we're seeing or feeling, but not necessarily understanding that the root cause could be cellular dysfunction. So, how do you describe cellular health to like the basic average person?
Yeah. So when I am looking at cellular health, I really want people to get in this place of self-awareness and listen to the cues that their body is giving them. Because at the end of the day, our symptoms are cues that our cells are giving us. And if our cells are angry because they are not receiving nutrients, they're going to speak up, and they speak up in the form of symptoms, whether that is bloating, brain fog, fatigue. They're speaking to us that there's something off. And then that's where you want to look at, all right, is it something that we can see on a biochemical level and replenish that because they're missing that ingredient per se to make the cell membranes function and communicate? Is there some toxin overload in our body that is preventing the body from doing what it needs to do? There's just so much to it.
Yeah, no, there really is, and it's hard to kind of to know where to start. I think it's interesting when we kind of peel back the layers and start to look at that. What I find, and this, I don't know if this is true in your practice or not, but I find as people get older, they kind of just assume that the symptoms that they're feeling are related to age or are just something that happens, right? So, for example, if people are tired all the time, like that's such a common one, like fatigue, where people just say, oh, I'm getting older. Oh, I have too much on my plate. Work is really stressful right now, rather than them looking at it as an actual symptom that's related to a lack of nutrients, a lack of detoxing, or things like that. Do you find that people kind of just dismiss symptoms very easily, or what do you really see?
Well, yes, absolutely. We begin to think that having morning headaches and being bloated after a meal is a normal process, and that's just what we are supposed to experience because we are working hard and we are doing all the things that we need to do. But it's really not normal for these things if you give, like I said, you give your cells what they need. And most people are depleted from the basic ingredients of what they need to function, to create cellular replication and the DNA and to metabolize and synthesize proteins that you need to function. They're missing those ingredients at this deep level. And where are those ingredients coming from? A significant amount of them is coming from what you put in your body, what you eat.
Did you know that before the invention of germicides and antibiotics, it was known that disease causing germs could not survive in the presence of silver? Thus, silver was used in dishware, drinking containers, and eating utensils. Whether it's a weak immune system, dry skin, eczema, sun damage, bad breath, or unhealthy gums, we are all looking for ways to optimize our health and reduce the symptoms we're dealing with on a daily basis. But honestly, it's tough to know what remedy to try, what food may be causing the issue, or what will actually work when we're trying to heal. Of course, there are somewhat effective solutions we can get from our local pharmacy, but as people who prefer using the power of nature to heal, using these products don't really align with our values. Keeping our bodies strong is essential to our good health. A strong immune system can protect our body from infection and helps us heal. Silver has been used for centuries to do exactly this. Silver Biotics have taken the old technology of colloidal silver and improved it to create the next generation of silver products. Silver Biotics has products for skincare for issues like dry skin and eczema, and I'm currently using their skin gel on the back of my legs as I try to heal the dry skin that I'm dealing with. They have oral health products as well, including a fantastic toothpaste that helps fight bad bacteria with its silver content. It also decreases bad breath, whitens teeth, and supports healthy gums. They have an immune support supplement that can be taken orally, which also helps support our immune system from the inside out. If you are interested in trying silver and you've heard about this and it's kind of been one of those things that you've always wanted to do and try, I really, really recommend Silver Biotics, and they are my go-to silver company. You can head over to silverbiotics.com or the shop on my website and use my code BiohackingBrittany in all capitals to get a discount, which gets you 10% off today. Again, I really recommend trying this if it's for you, if it's for your pet, if it's for a loved one. Silver is definitely a staple in my little pharmacy I have at home. So that's silverbiotics.com or the shop on my website, discount code BiohackingBrittany for 10% off today. Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. It's very common for people to dismiss things. And I find it's hard to even educate people on awareness in the first place. Like when I used to see clients, I'm a nutritionist. So when I used to see clients, even just asking about bowel movements, and you would say, okay, how are your bowel movements? And they'd say, oh, it's fine, it's normal. And then you ask them like follow-up questions like, how often are you going? What does it look like? Does it sink? Does it float? Is it smelly? Like all of these descriptive things. And then you talk to them and you actually realize like, oh, your bowel movements are actually not normal and they shouldn't look like this or smell like this or whatever it is. But it's like that lack of awareness that is so prevalent. And it seems like people are so busy now to even really stop and kind of pay attention to things.
Yeah, and that's really where my book comes in, because I wrote this book not only to the anatomy of well-being, not only to help you understand how the body is working, but really to take you off of autopilot with these habits that you're kind of doing with very little self-awareness or intention, and take you to living your life more intentionally with greater self-awareness and optimizing that with practices of rituals. And for me, rituals are something that you're going to do for your long-term functional well-being. It's not like this short fix or temporary pleasure we might have with a habit. So, and which ones are important. And that's where it becomes personalized and individualized, because for one individual, getting their ritual in place for how they sleep might be the most impactful thing for their health. Whereas for another person, their rituals around how they deal with their emotions and their own emotional well-being might be their make or break. So I think that it's really important for us to prioritize what we need for our own health and what's going to make us happy.
Yeah, exactly. So if someone says, okay, I really want to understand what's going on with myself better, and I want to increase my awareness. What type of habits do you recommend people start with? Is it journaling? Like how do you increase your awareness, I guess is the question.
Mm-hmm. Well, I usually start with a self-assessment of what are you doing with your time? We all have 24 hours in a day. How are you spending your time? And with the hours that you're spending, what do you like about it? What do you not like about it? Is it doing something to help you with your health? Like, do you feel energized with these different activities? Do you feel depleted? Right. And then, so we're almost peeling back the layers of what you're already doing. And then we're looking at it. It's not about doing more. Sometimes it's about doing less. And where do we have space to do things that maybe will benefit us more and create more space for us and create more ease and relaxation? Because we really are on autopilot. We go from here to there to the next place. And we don't realize that it might be okay when we do this in a short periods. But when we're doing this day in, day out, like I am seeing 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, all with the same stuff, depleted, chronic disease after chronic disease after chronic disease. I mean, my youngest patient was 18 years old that I diagnosed with breast cancer. I mean, 18 is quite young to have breast cancer, especially when her genetics were normal, like they weren't the BRCA predisposed genetics. So there is a lot going on in our world. And I think as a collective, we have to look at what is it that we can change about this go-go world?
Oh, I like totally relate to that. Like the go, go, go is so tough. And especially as an entrepreneur, especially as a woman, I just feel like it's really hard to maintain a sense of optimal wellness or health and still be able to go, go, go. Like it's such a difficult thing to balance. And honestly, like I'm not successful at it. There's some days I overwork, but then there's some days I work way less and really just have to take care of myself. And so hopefully it balances out. But I think for a lot of people, we kind of just drive our health into the ground over time. And then the symptoms get bad enough, or there's some sort of like diagnosis where suddenly we're like, okay, I actually have to deal with this right now because it can't get any worse.
Yeah. And sometimes what you need to experience is almost like an immersion or have a new experience where you understand that how your body can feel when it is well nourished. For example, I hosted a well-being retreat, a women's well-being retreat recently. It was called From Depleted to Revitalized, and I'm sure everybody needs this kind of retreat. But where it was just 5 days of focusing on really getting in tune with what your needs were, spending time with journaling and meditating and allowing your body to process the feelings, the symptoms, and then at the same time nourishing it with very clean food. And spending that time to create new rituals and deciding, all right, this is what I want to take back with me. This is what I know I can implement in my week or my weekend or my days because I know how it makes me feel. And now that I know I can feel less in pain, less fatigued, I know that this is possible, so I will continue to do it. So sometimes people really benefit from this immersive approach. Because if they don't feel the benefit, then they're like, well, I'm not going to do it. And they give up before they even have a chance to allow their body or their cells to respond to it. So that I always find is a great way. Now, I know not everybody could have that kind of retreat experience, but it might be something you can create for yourself that maybe one weekend a month, all you're doing is just taking care of your mental, physical, emotional, nutritional needs and seeing how do you feel when you start that on a Friday night and on Monday morning? How do you feel if you're doing that?
Do you ever feel frazzled, not grounded, stressed, and like you have way too much on your plate? Of course, you know you should be taking time for self-care, but doesn't mean you actually are. And it kind of just feels like another thing on your to-do list. I have definitely been there. It's tough to kind of balance everything these days, especially for those of us working from home with extra side hustles and or kids. Stress reduction feels like a nice idea, but never something easily achievable in the moments when we need it the most. I believe in solutions that use science to help us be healthier on a daily basis, but without crazy technology or tools that aren't accessible or affordable for everybody. I use Sensate, which is something that I've been using for a long time now, and I spoke about a lot last year, which is a groundbreaking innovation in wellness technology that uses the natural power of sonic resonance to calm your body's nervous system, providing immediate, let me tell you, relief and long-term benefits from regular use. It calms your nerves and helps you feel better in as few as 10 minutes per day. It improves stress resilience to help you cope with whatever life throws at you. And it increases heart rate variability, a known biomarker of health and longevity. This is so important because for many of us, our body's built-in stress management system is simply just an overdrive. Sensate's novel patented technology was designed to send infrasonic waves through the chest to reach the vagus nerve that sits deep in the core of our nervous system. By speaking to our body's command center, we can control how we respond to all the positive and negative things that we experience each day, which is just so cool and such an easy biohack to bring in every day. You can use my discount code, which is Biohacking Brittany in all capitals. I will put the link in the show notes, and it's on my shop page at biohackingbrittany.com, and you get $25 off today. If you have any questions about it or when you get it, please message me. I'd love to chat, as this is one of my favorite biohacking tools to use on a regular basis. I love that. I love that you provide a space that shows you how great you can feel, because I find that it almost swings the other way where people do, I don't want to say the bad things, but like people, let's say they eat a bunch of junk food and drink a bunch of alcohol and don't exercise or whatever. And then they get to this place where they actually feel so crappy all the time. That's when they're like, oh, I actually have to turn this around. But you're giving them the opportunity to not even get to that point and just almost elevate them and feel super good. And then be like, okay, this is how you can feel all the time if you implement these habits and rituals.
And you'd be surprised. I mean, it's not that complex. It's not really rocket science. It's some of the simple things that we do every day that we don't think about how much. I mean, we have to eat every day. Okay. And I love food. I love a good meal, but how about we think about what does our body need? Does our body need antioxidants because you are in an area where you might be exposed to more inflammation and environmental toxins? And do I need to eat specific key antioxidant rich foods, or do I need something else? So really looking at that and going, oh, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because it's keeping my cells quiet and not angry. Because as soon as they become angry, they're speaking to you with those symptoms. So we really want to make cell care as a priority for self-care. So I say self-care is self-care. That's really where we should be looking at.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's really smart, actually. Self-care is self-care, because it's all related, and it's just a more specific way of looking at it. But I want to get into biohacking, and anytime that somebody has biohacking on their website, I'm like, okay, we got to talk biohacking. I'm so curious. So first of all, how did you kind of get into biohacking and bring that into your practice?
Yeah. So the way I really do it is I do it two ways. One, via technology, and two, via food. So for example, I'm trained in culinary medicine and also in functional medicine. So I actually combine the two, where I'm doing functional culinary medicine. And so I will create recipes and do cooking classes where I'm including, say, for example, ashwagandha in my curry, or I'm including holy basil, which is an adaptogenic herb, in certain foods if I'm focused on mental clarity, or maybe I'm adding another herb, quintuple. I mean, and some of these are things that, one, are you can easily get them. Two, you can even grow them. Like I grow holy basil, I grow quintuple, which is great if you're looking for mental clarity, and it's really beneficial if you're exposed to neurotoxins or heavy metals. So I'll incorporate them into my everyday food. So, when I talk to people, I'm like, oh, what are you eating? And they'll be like, oh, well, I have a salad, and they'll tell me about what they're doing in their salad. And I'm like, that's great. That's a great start, right? But how about this? Why don't you add a few of these leaves, or, this kind of powder to your smoothie, or let's elevate it a little bit more. So I teach them how to do that. So that's definitely one thing, is how do we incorporate some of these plants that the earth has given us that have great ingredients that we can use in this high-paced, stressful world. I mean, who wouldn't want ashwagandha curry? And then as for technology, I really like using tracking devices. I've got my Aura ring. I know when I've had a good night. I know when I've not. And I'm able to input rituals into areas that I cannot control to be able to modify my body, in a sense. Like, on the days that I see clients or patients, it is a very energy draining day. Any doctor will tell you that. It takes a lot out of you to work with patients, right? So I need a way to be able to monitor that and then serve my body better, right? So I know on those days, the quality of my sleep is not as well. I've been tracking it for quite a bit of time. So on those nights, I might include something like a Epsom salt bath with extra magnesium in it, or I might include an infrared sauna to get into a state of more relaxation. Or maybe I'm doing a brain tap meditation. So there's other technologies that I might implement by seeing what's going on in my daily rhythm.
Yeah, I love that. I have a bunch of the things that you mentioned, like the Aura Ring, I think is super helpful. I think just data in general is super helpful. And I think there's something to be said about intuition and going off of that. But it's when you combine it with your daily data is like, that is the sweet spot. That is where the power is. And even just the Aura Ring, for example, like sometimes I'll wake up and I feel great, but my Aura Ring stats aren't that great, or vice versa. And it's really interesting to kind of compare the two and kind of make your decisions based on the middle ground. So when I talk to people about any of these tracking devices, it's like, yeah, use this data to your advantage, but also like tap into how you feel. Like, how do you actually feel? Do you have the energy? Are you in a mental space where you can go and have a intense workout for an hour, or are you just kind of mentally drained and you need to go do yoga? Like, I think there's a balance there that's important as well.
Absolutely. I mean, technology can be beneficial, but for some, for some, it can be a motivating force. For others, it can have the complete opposite effect. So you really need to know what works for you, right? So that's where I know, for example, my patients love data. I love data. So I love doing in-depth functional lab testing. It works great for my patients when they see the data, and then they are able to modify some of the things that they're doing that they didn't realize affected their health. And then they see the data improve along with their symptoms improve. They're like, oh, okay, this makes sense now. It helps them actually keep up with that because they have a way to track it. So I do find that, it is a plus or minus, and it's really how far do you want to take it and how is it benefiting you in the long run? Because there is an extreme to biohacking, and we can do some of the simplest things like a good mindfulness practice or a good breathing practice. One of the newest devices that I'm testing out is called Moonbird, and it's a breathing device to help you regulate your breathing. And it's a handheld device, which is pretty cool because you think that you're breathing pretty relaxed, but it kind of helps you train yourself. Am I really doing this? And am I really getting the breathing type that I want to get for a more parasympathetic state?
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. It's really cool to hear things like that come out and things like that develop. So, when you talk about extreme biohacking, why do you think that there is a segment of biohacking that is at an extreme level in the first place?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we all want to be, somewhat superhuman or our best version of ourselves, right? So some people might want to have those kinds of things going on. And I think you do have all different levels, and everybody can kind of be their own level of biohacking and achieve the results that they want. Right. So you don't need to go to that extreme to really get some good results. If you even start with some of the simpler things, and even this in-depth laboratory testing it's on that right end of like, we're getting pretty extreme because that's not considered, standard of care. But I'm finding that that is really where standard of care should be, because it is very helpful for my patients and it's very helpful for them to resolve their health issues.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's interesting is that, as a biohacker myself, I think there is this like fine line that you talk about of becoming obsessed, and almost to a point where you're so obsessed with the biohacks, you're so obsessed with the data that it's actually just causing you more stress than if you didn't do any biohacking in the first place. And And that's kind of scary, to be honest. Like, and I've been on both sides of that. I understand it fully. And I've like kind of tapered off when I've needed to taper off. And so if someone's listening to this and they're like, yeah, that's me, like I'm kind of spiraling a bit, what do you recommend for those types of people?
Yeah, absolutely. I have seen the spiraling, especially with supplementation, is where I tend to see it often because I get a lot of patients that will come to my office and they'll have their 20 bottles of supplements and they'll line them up on my desk and I'll be looking at them and reading the ingredients and slowly nudging them into my supplement graveyard, which is the trash can at the end of my desk. But even having the conversation of why are you taking this? Right. So I think somebody has to take a pause there and go, why am I really taking this? And is this really helping? Because what happens is our friend might recommend something, or we might see something on TV or on a podcast, and we'll be like, oh, let me try this. But we don't really know if it's working. So I do suggest if you are going to try something, try one thing at a time and see how it's working for you, document, observe your symptoms. And you might start taking something for your gut per se, and you realize, that your fatigue is less, right? So look at the whole body of what's going on, not just you're taking, this for your gut health and now your bowel movements are better. Look at the full aspect of what's going on with you. Is your energy better? Is your mind clearer? Because we all are interconnected and our cells are constantly communicating not only to us, but with each other. Right. So I think taking a step back and really looking at what you're putting in your body, how much of it do you really need? So supplements is definitely somewhere that I see an extreme. And I'm a big advocate of supplements. I think they work great. I think you definitely want to work with a practitioner who understands them and how they work with your body to make sure that you are on the right ones for your individual body, because nobody's body is the same. And it's the same thing. Like, say, for example, vitamin D, you might be taking vitamin D because your vitamin D level was low, and yet your vitamin D is not increasing and your doctor's not checking it again. But maybe you go to a functional or integrative doctor that will check it and they're like, well, something's going on here. So maybe you have a gene that doesn't allow you to convert vitamin D. So looking at that in depth and getting kind of a partner in your journey is always going to be helpful.
Let's take a few moments here as I would love to share my latest discovery with you guys. Listen in, as I guarantee this is the hottest, super nutrient-packed new product to boost your brain and overall well-being on the market. First of all, a little bit about my experience. As soon as I tried this product, I became a super fan of it, and I was just blown away with the immediate results. I felt focused, my mind was clear, it just doubled my mental performance. It became my go-to routine for a productivity boost, immune support, and even glowing and healthy skin. This product was developed after long years of research by the most advanced brain chemist and formulator today. You probably all have heard about the superpowers of mushroom extracts and collagen. So guess what? The product I want to share with you contains the most hyper concentrated forms of 4 of the best health boosting mushrooms: lion's mane, chaga, cordyceps, and reishi, collagen, and Peruvian cacao. This magic in a jar is called Colla Genius. When you combine the cultivating powers of the 4 mushrooms mentioned above with the various benefits of collagen, it is truly the most effective way to energize your brain and body. It is genius, it is delicious, and it is effective. Add it to your coffee or simply mix it with water. This smooth, chocolatey drink will definitely find a way into your routine. And the most important part, it will fuel your brain and body with all day energy without any crashes or jitters. So if you struggle with brain fog, have difficulty focusing, and want to repair your brain in a most natural way, do not wait and definitely check this product out. It's for sure the hottest mushroom and collagen product on the market, which you have to try. You can check it out at www.newtopia.com/BrittanyGenius and use the code BiohackingBrittany during checkout to save 10%. And Newtopia, the company which makes Colla Genius, is so confident that you will love this product that they offer a 365 days money back guarantee, which is wild. Again, you can go to the link. It'll be in my show notes, which is www.nootopia, spelled nootopia.com/Brittany Genius today. Do it now and your brain will thank you, especially this holiday season. Yeah, I love that. It's really important to just have healthcare practitioners on your team who are there to support you, who are there to look at your health from a holistic standpoint and really care about like the root cause, but also your longevity and like where you're going in the future, and not just the one symptom or the one component, but really looking at you as a whole, I think is super important. When it comes to biohacking, do you think that there is anything that is missing in this space right now, whether that's a certain topic or even maybe a device or a service? Like, have you seen anything where you're like, okay, like we need to actually move biohacking into this area?
I don't know if I would say that it's missing per se, except for perhaps the conventional healthcare system understanding what we're trying to do. So maybe what would be missing is research around some of these different tools that are a little bit simpler that we can use would be great. And having this kind of consolidated data to show that using these different devices. And I know each of the technology companies that brings out this wearable technology is doing it, but having a little bit more of that and having some long-term studies on how that's impacting all of our chronic diseases would be a great place to head.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think integration of biohacking in multiple spaces, healthcare spaces, is important. And I mean, it's slowly happening, right? Like it's definitely becoming more mainstream, but I think there's still a long way to go.
There's a very long way to go. I mean, you and I are both in the community where we get to experience these things and are exposed to these things, but the average person isn't going to be able to go down the street and try an infrared sauna or be able to have this brain tapping experience. But I think it should become part of treatment protocols. Like we know that mindfulness meditation, how the quality of life is improved for cancer patients, specifically breast cancer patients. And breast cancer is, 1 in 8 women has breast cancer, right? So why wouldn't we be incorporating that into their protocol and regimen instead of just saying that it's as an adjunct?
Yep, I agree with that. I think it'd be great if we could all walk down the street and have access to a sauna or something. That would be awesome.
My dream is that somebody gets me in contact with the person who has the time, like that big, huge sign in New York Times Square. So we can do a entire New York City meditation at 12 o'clock every day in New York City. So if anybody knows anybody that can do that, I would love to get in touch with you, because I think I spent a lot of time in New York. I'm not in New York right now, but that environment is super, super high stressed environment. And if we could all just experience what 10 minutes or even 15 minutes of just slowing down could do for us, that would be so impactful, I think.
Wow. I love that. That would be so cool to see. We're putting it out in the universe. It's going to happen.
Putting it out there. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we're manifesting it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. So if someone wants to reach out and work with you one-on-one, how can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can be reached at my website, drbhanote.com. So it's just my name. I'm also on social media as Dr. Bhanote, and my book, The Anatomy of Wellbeing, where you can learn about these different intentional practices and rituals, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all retail booksellers. So you can grab a copy there and kind of get started.
Nice. I love that. I will put all of that in the show notes so everybody can find you super easily. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This was cool. And I think everyone definitely got a lot from it.
All right. Thank you so much, Brittany, for having me.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Biohacking with Brittany. If you're interested in finding the show notes or the sponsors for this episode, you can do so on my website, which is biohackingbrittany.com. Remember to follow me on Instagram where I'm most active. My handle is @BiohackingBrittany. And if you're interested in working together and you want to email me directly, you can do that. My email is info@biohackingbrittany.com. And I look forward to hearing from you and having you tune in next week.